All right, key players from LSU and South Carolina before Saturday's matchup. Who will be a difference maker in Williams-Brice this Saturday? Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. It is your Thursday edition. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and I hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday. We're getting closer and closer. At the time of recording this, we are less than 48 hours from kickoff in a big one against LSU. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts on any streaming platform, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel, now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers who bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial on an NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And there you go. Let's get into the show. We've got a good one. We are going to go behind enemy lines and talk to some people over at my other job and some coworkers that are close to the LSU program. Get to know the enemy, talking about LSU. We did it last week for Kentucky. We're going to do it this week for LSU. We're going to do it every week for the most part, we probably won't do it for Akron, I'll be honest. But without further ado, we're going to be joined by our good buddy Hunt Palmer, who works for ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, knows a lot about the ins and outs of LSU football. And without further ado, here is Hunt. All right, we are joined by Hunt Palmer, my other coworker from another job, and just behind enemy lines. Do not tell my boss about this hat. It's already a huge deal with this fan base. But, dude, we're talking about this game. I think that I've been saying this since the summer. I feel like if you ask each fan base, it's two totally different levels of confidence and you want I want to say rational belief of what you think you're going to see on Saturday. From the LSU perspective, what are you expecting Saturday in Williams-Brice?
Yeah, I mean, I think LSU is going to throw the ball a lot. I don't think they're going to run it very well, and I think their defense is going to be pretty mediocre because that's kind of what LSU has been for 2 weeks. They threw it really well against Southern Cal, and they got in the red zone and didn't get touchdowns. They threw it really well against Nichols. They didn't run it worth a flip against Southern Cal. They didn't run it worth a flip against Nichols. And the defense, while there were some signs that things were a little bit better in the USC game, they still gave up over 400 yards and lost the game. So I think LSU kind of has an identity right now, and until I see differently, that's kind of what I expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think one of the things that's the weirdest part of the identity is still kind of like the lack of identity and understanding of where Harold Perkins is going to fit best in this defense. And here's the thing. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like when I'm making like graphics or something, and I'm like, okay, I get to this deep dive where I'm like, I'm going to move like 87 things, like a quarter of an inch one way and be like, hey, what do you think looks best? And like, I don't know, just go back to what it was. Like, this looks the exact same, but it's also not as good. Like, what happened to 2 years ago when this guy was the best defensive player in the whole country? And all of a sudden it's like, well, what if we just tinker around with it? Like, what do you expect to see from him, and where's he going to line up on the field?
So I don't know exactly where he's going to line up. The scuttlebutt here in Baton Rouge is that he's going to move out to the star position that Major Burns has been manning. It's a safety, but he plays in the box, and you're around the line of scrimmage a lot more. You can blitz from there. You're asked to cover a little bit from there. It's more of a linebacker look than a safety look, and I think that's probably where he's going to spend a lot of time. His best ability is his ability to rush the passer and then use his athleticism as a spy. However, he's 6 feet tall and 220 pounds. And if he goes to Sundays, you can't line up on the line of scrimmage at 6 feet tall and 220 pounds and deal with those offensive tackles, snap in and snap out. They'll eat you alive. So there had to be some development of his game back a level at linebacker just for draft purposes. But it has made him a less impactful player at the college level. And there have been games where he's kind of been MIA. There have been games where he was schemed out of the game. I mean, Mike Norvell just got him completely out of the game last year with Florida State in the opener. So they're trying. I mean, this is not something they've just figured out this week. Like, we need to probably think about this. They've thought about this since Blake Baker showed up in January. It's just not working out right now.
Yeah. I think that he's obviously one of the bigger names. Nussmeier, obviously. I've been talking about the Nussmeier and Kyron Lacey combo because that's really been the offense at times. And as bad as LSU has been at running the football, Nussmeier's got 8 touchdowns on the season, including 6 against Nichols. Give me some names offensively and defensively, maybe outside of those 3 we just mentioned, that should have an impact on this game Saturday specifically.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Hilton's going to play. He was supposed to be the number 2 wide receiver, and he's been dealing with a bone bruise that kept him out the last 2 weeks of camp, and it's still just not quite there yet. He hasn't really been able to practice, so I don't think you're going to see him. Probably, and right now Kyle Parker is kind of banged up as well, and he was filling in for Hilton. He got a UCL injury in his elbow. So right now at wide receiver, you're going to see a lot of Aaron Anderson, who is really, really quick. He's short and shifty slot guy. They get him the ball in some screen action and whatnot. You're going to see Xavier Thomas, who's a great kick returner and punt returner, but they're asking him to do a little bit more in terms of wide receiver now because those 2 guys are out. So those are probably the 2 biggest options as far as wide receiver. But I think Mason Taylor is a huge piece of what LSU tries to do at tight end. He's big, he runs pretty well, he catches everything, and Nussmeier likes to go to him. So I think you're going to see a lot of Mason Taylor on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it's like you've seen LSU teams in the past. You're fine with throwing the ball however many times you need to throw the ball because you do it so well, do it so efficiently and effectively. But in 70% chance of rain, it's bad weather everywhere. I don't know if that's going to still be the game plan. Defensively, what are y'all expecting to see against South Carolina? Because I'll tell you right now, from somebody that's been covering South Carolina, it's not been great offensively. Yeah. They have done well. I think the Kentucky game was awesome. If we're being honest, I think it kind of masked some of the issues that South Carolina's had offensively. But what are you expecting to face against this offense going into Saturday?
Well, I don't know if LSU has a single SEC quality defensive tackle on the entire roster right now.
Right.
I don't know if they have one. Gio Paez is going to start. He was a defensive end at Wisconsin that didn't start a ton while he was there. Now he's shifted inside to tackle. Paris Shand has played a little bit of tackle, but he's really a defensive end. I don't know if they're going to kick him down there. Sean Washington's a JUCO prospect. Jalen Lee's been a backup at Florida and LSU and hasn't really played in 4 years. Then you got Ahmad Bro and Don McKinley, who are true freshmen, who you would really prefer not to put huge snap loads on.
Right.
I don't know what they've got at defensive tackle. It's not good. And so they're going to probably have to deal with numbers in the box. I do think the linebackers are pretty good. Greg Penn's a pretty good player. Whit Weeks is a really good player, and Perkins will play some linebacker as well. And they're good on the ends. Savion Jones is a really good player, and I think they can rush the passer. But as far as the run game goes, that's a big question mark at defensive tackle because they couldn't really address it in the portal, and then their best one got hurt for the season.
All right, Hunt, before you have to get out of here and go edit another one of my 15,000 word, articles with a ton of grammatical errors in them, and I appreciate you for it. You got a doozy that's in your inbox right now, just a heads up.
I'm already looking at it.
Okay. That's very fair. But no, anyway, give me a prediction, a score prediction for the game, and yeah, man, we'll have to circle back whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, I think LSU's going to win the game. If LSU doesn't win the game, they're in big trouble. All your preseason goals are pretty much out the window, and you've got some real soul searching to do. I think they'll throw it well enough, and I don't know that South Carolina can keep up throwing it that way. We'll see what the weather has to do, but that's kind of a chance deal. I think LSU wins it somewhere in the neighborhood of 28-24, but I do think it's going to be a close game and a really, really good environment. So we'll see. I think it's a last drive type game.
Sounds good, man. Listen, I appreciate you coming on and all the other work you do over at 104.5 ESPN. Tell everyone where they can find you and find us. Mainly you, though, because I don't need them coming after me on two different platforms.
Yeah, you can find us at louisianasports.net. You can find me on YouTube for 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and locally here. And you can find me on the pre- and post-game show for LSU football. So a lot of hats I wear.
We appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Chris. Thanks.
All right, I appreciate Hunt coming on and talking a little bit of behind the scenes, behind enemy lines with LSU. Before we get into our next segment, I'm going to get into some of the things that I think that are going to be game changers, mainly on the South Carolina side. I know we talked about LSU a lot already. He handled a lot of that as somebody that's very close to the program, but we will talk about who I think the impact players for South Carolina are going to be, and I think maybe are going to need to be if they win on Saturday. And I tell you what, man, as we get closer and closer to it, I'm having a hard time being talked out of picking them, but I have some method to the madness as to who I'm going to pick I'll explain more why in the next segment. Before we get into the next segment, I do want to talk to you about our friends at Factor Meals. We got a lot of friends. I keep talking about that. Very friendly episode today. Factor Meals. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to a menu of chef-created meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. I mean, honestly, what are you waiting for here, guys? With 35 different meals, more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this September with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. You make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. That's a tough sentence. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or don't avoid it, or just simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. Use the code lockedoncollege50, all one word, to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That is code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Great stuff from Factor Meals. At some point, I'm going to have to jump on board with that as well. We'll just do it together. We'll have a little Factor Meal family here on the show. Also want to talk to you about our friends at FanDuel. This is a Thursday episode, so we got games on tonight. We got games on tomorrow. We got games on all weekend. Why not head over to FanDuel and start some more fun today? You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday. Listen, September 15th, pregame moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting tonight, Thursday, September 12th. They will be live for any of the September 15th pregame moneyline bets via your account page. Now, to learn about your boost, just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, that is all for the first part of the show. We'll be back in a minute to talk a lot more about the impact players from South Carolina that I think will have the biggest effect on the outcome of Saturday's game. What's up, guys? Welcome back in to Locked On Gamecocks. And listen, we talked about LSU. I think there's a lot of help going over some of the guys that are going to be impactful in that game. And I wouldn't be surprised to see LSU still try to get the ground game going a little bit because you have to be balanced to be, I think, an effective and good team in this day and age. And I'll be honest, I don't know if, it's still early in the season. I know that LSU is going to at least try to still run the football. I don't think they're going to abandon any hope of being able to run the ball after just 2 games. And I don't know if they are going to respect South Carolina enough to not try to run the football. I'm telling you, I've said this a lot. I think that I just don't think people outside of Columbia really realize yet how good this defense is. And it's going to cost some people some games like you saw last week. You talk about some of the let me see here. I'm looking at some of the stats so far from LSU. You're still running the football a decent amount, right? Overall in season, you only averaged 23 attempts per game. That is paling in comparison to how many times you've thrown the ball. You've thrown the ball an average of 38 times per game. So that's you're talking about 67% almost, like a 67% clip of throwing versus passing. That does not happen in today's day and age of football unless you're talking about a fun and gun type offense. So I still expect them to try to run the ball, but they also know what their strengths are, and their strengths are going to be passing the football. So my first impact player, I think, that it's a guy that we haven't heard a ton about this month or in the first 2 weeks. And that's a good thing. And that is because at his position, you don't want to hear a lot about them. That's a Donald Fortune, man. This is a defensive back who graded, I'm looking at it right now, graded out a 77.8 overall. It ranks in the top 40 nationally at the cornerback position. You want your cornerbacks, like you don't want to have a guy that has a ton of publicity around them unless it's like some crazy year where they have a ton of interceptions or whatever, right? Like you want that to go unnoticed because that means they're not throwing the football his way. And if you can block off a third of the field or half the field or whatever with a lockdown cornerback, that is a huge weapon you have defensively. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Fortune is that necessarily, but I think he can be. And he's going to have to be big this weekend because Kyron Lacy is a very, very good receiver. He leads, I think, at least the conference, if not the country, in touchdown reception so far with 4. I mean, he has been a weapon. Like make no mistake about it, he has been an absolute weapon for Nussmeier in this offense. And here's the other thing, guys. Like, you want your best going up against the best. Like, they are very banged up at the receiver position. They're going to try to get the tight ends involved, but they're banged up at the receiver position. He brought up Anderson. Anderson's a transfer from Alabama. He's a former top 50 recruit, like a 4.3, 4.4 guy. Very, very fast, very, very quick, small guy. He's like 5'10", 5'11". That's a guy that I think in this offense, like, you might try to get him in space. Like, you might see him being used a little bit how you thought that, like, Gage was going to be used in this offense early on. But you're going to need to have Kyron Lacy. Kyron Lacy's got to be held under 100 yards, just flat out. He's got to be held under 100 yards. He's going to get some catches. They're going to find ways to scheme him open. But you have got to find a way to take him out of the game, much like USC did in the second half of that LSU-USC game in the opener out in Vegas. Because that guy, I mean, he came out in the first drive. They targeted him 5 times in the very first drive. He gets a touchdown in the opening possession. Like, I mean, that's exactly how that's, you know, you're coming off months of script and being on script in that game. That's exactly how they wanted that to go, right? Second half of that game, I talked about Barrett Salia on his show earlier today, Smothered and Covered. Make sure you give it a listen. He disappeared. He flat out disappeared. So how do you figure out a way to get that guy as minimal as possible, not just in like the box score and the stat sheet, but especially out of the end zone, because that is their offense as of right now. That is. LSU has a very good roster. Everyone knows that. They've recruited well. It's deep, it's talented, all that kind of stuff. But like I said, your second and third option at receiver are out for the most part. They're hampered with injury at the very least. So if you can take Kyron Lacy out of this game, you have a very good chance of winning this game. The other one is this. I said it last week, and I'm not even going to say a name here, guys. I'm not even going to say a name. But which one on the spin the wheel option for South Carolina receivers is going to have himself a day on Saturday? Is it Mazio Bennett, right? I don't know. It's probably not going to be Nick Harper. Still has not recorded a catch this season. Is it Michael Smith, tight end from last week? Had a great game against Kentucky. Is it Jared Brown getting some guys early? Like remember, I read this last week, and the numbers for this going into this weekend or going into last weekend, the prop bets for each player was like 23, I think it was like 21 and 23 yards total for Brown and Vandravius Jacobs. Jacobs was held without a catch, I think. So it was Brown that stepped up, right? Like Brown and Smith were like your top guys receiving. You don't have a receiver with over 100 yards receiving this year. You don't. Mazio Bennett's the only one that's over 60. He's got 5 catches for 81 yards. You're going to need someone to step up in this offense. Because listen, I think they're going to be able to have some success running the football. I do. I wonder if you're going to see Robbie Ashford again, right? Like, because even for the reasons why he came in, he was still effective at a time when you needed him to be in that offense. Keep the chains moving, keep the ball moving forward, all that kind of stuff. It goes without saying that Lenore Sellers needs to play probably his best game that he's had in college to win this game. This is, I mean, like, you get him at home, it cannot set up for more success than you have right now if you're South Carolina going into this game. You get him at home, you get a raucous environment, you have game day there. That place is going to be rocking. Like Sandstorm on loop, let's effing go Cox by 90. Like that place is going to be loud, very loud. And LSU does not play well away from home. We've gone over that. But you're going to need Sellers, I think, to have his best game yet. Now, that being said, you're going to also need to run the football. And I think they will. It's an LSU defense that has not been like it's been a while since we've seen an LSU defense that's been really, really good. That 2019 LSU defense, even though they had stars and good players all over it, I mean, that's a defense that gave them like 400 yards rushing to Ole Miss that year. I don't need to really, it doesn't really matter if that's the right number or not, but I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm just, my ADD is going to kick in, and I have to know. They gave up, it was not 400 yards. It was a lot, though. It was 225 yards. I was way off. Okay. Either way, South Carolina has got to run the football with Rocket Sanders and Lenore Sellers. You have to win the turnover battle, but I think that Rocket Sanders has got to be the key here. He's got to be the key. And the other one is this. If I had to pick a third, because there's other guys that are going to be important. The linebacking course is going to be important. I think this is going to be the first time this season, guys, where you're going to see the pass rush probably negated a little bit. These are really, really good offensive tackles that LSU has. So I think you might not see the same kind of hold on, we got a text from the boss here, where you get the same kind of pass rush in the backfield. They're going to get pressure on Nussmeier. Keep in mind, Vandegrift was like a dual threat type guy coming out of high school. Like that's a guy that's mobile. He's able to get away from the pass rush. He's not just like a statue back there. And they were able to get after his ass all day. I expect him to put some pressure on LSU and Nussmeier as well, but it's also an offensive line that hasn't given up a sack this year. So what does that mean? You got to be good in the secondary. You got to get he's going to have some extra time to throw, which means you're going to have extra time to get there, and you're going to be in good position, keep things in front of you. And I think that linebacking core is also going to have a really, really good day, like a really, really good day. Debo Williams is going to be, as important as he always is, right? The other one I think is going to be huge for this team in this game specifically. If I and there doesn't mean to only be three, but if there had to be a third, okay, give me Juju McDowell. And give me Juju McDowell. It doesn't matter if it's in the return game, if it's whatever, flipping the field and having it. Just give me one big return, man. Give me one good return. Yeah, give me something where early on in the game or in the third quarter or even the fourth, this is pretty much the whole game, where it's in a big moment, you're so close, and South Carolina's able to get off the field and it's 3rd and 13, you get a stop and they got a punt. Give me a 24-yard gain, man. Give me something inside the 40-yard line, and let's go win a ball game. There's a reason why there are 3 phases in this game, and they're all equally important. And there's a reason why Beamer ball has been so successful here under Shane Beamer. This is the type of game you can go win by winning all 3 phases of the game, or winning 2 of the 3 and one of them being special teams. Guys, we've seen it before in this matchup. 2007 against LSU. We have to see the highlight all the time. Little Colt David throw over his head, fake field goal from Les Miles. We know how important special teams can be in games like this. Juju McDowell, in the return game, on offense, whatever. You are one of the best athletes on this roster. You are a matchup nightmare for people. Go out there. Give me 70 total yards, including the return game, and make them count. That's all I'm asking. You know what I mean? Give me a 20-yard punt return late in the game, flip the field, get in field goal range, go win yourself a ball game. Because this defense is good enough to win you ball games. They can be suffocating for long enough to where it's after a while you're going to get so frustrated you're going to get prone to turning over the ball. We've seen Nussmeier turn the football over. He is by the definition of a gunslinger, where he is going to go out there and trust his arm more than anything else out there on that field. Better than his read on the coverage, better than his guys that go up and catch the ball. He's going to trust his right arm more than anything else on the field. That will lead you to turnovers, just flat out. Juju McDowell in the return game. O'Donnell Fortune locking down Kyron Lacey. Rocket Sanders. Those are the 3 biggest players, I think, that should go out there and win this game for South Carolina. And I kind of think they will. but we're going to get to our predictions tomorrow. I'm going to tell you right now. Spoiler alert. I'm not picking South Carolina to win this game. It has nothing to do with whether or not I think they're going to win. But this is a show, and this is a host on this show. A little peel behind the onion on me. Peel behind the curtain. Whatever. Very superstitious. Very superstitious. I think years of playing baseball throughout college has probably built into that. Very superstitious. Very routine-based for me. Okay? Show started going better when I got this dang hat, right? Show started going better first when we got internet. We got out of South Carolina with the Spectrum BS. Got even better once we got the hat. Last week I picked Kentucky. South Carolina won. First week I picked South Carolina to win and cover the spread of 20.5. Barely eked by. So if that gives you a hint as to what I'm going to pick tomorrow, doesn't mean what I believe in here, but what I'm going to verbally say to the football gods and the good luck gods, that is probably going to have some play into it. All right, let's get into our last segment here shortly. Before we do, I want to tell you about our friends, big friends on the show today, guys, at LinkedIn. LinkedIn, let's see here. What do we have to say from LinkedIn? When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. You guys know I love a deep dive, and you know I love some stats. Here's a stat for you. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and so am I, and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. Now, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply, but head over to linkedin.com today. All right, guys, that is all for the second part of the show. We will close out the show with some fun news that we predicted here yesterday. Locked On College, Locked On Gamecocks continues next. All right, guys, that is all for mostly all for the show today. Remember to tune in tomorrow. We will have another show for you. It'll be our prediction show. Have some other thoughts I want to hear from y'all. Make sure you send me a message, Locked On SC on Twitter, all that good stuff. Or in the comments, whatever, your predictions for the game, who you think is going to win as well. And we will get to our prediction show. Before we do, in tomorrow's episode also, we're going to go over some more key players, I think, and things that I think are going to impact the game, both positively or negatively, in addition to giving you my prediction. Before we do, speaking of predictions, College Gameday is going to be in South Carolina, in Columbia, in the 803. Very excited. As this game counts down to kickoff at noon Saturday, you will have 3 hours of ESPN College Gameday, and the guest picker was announced today. I was hoping it was going to be Steven Garcia. I really was. It makes sense that it wasn't. As much as I love Steven, it makes sense that it wasn't. The pick they went with, chef's kiss. Dawn Staley is going to be your celebrity guest picker. The way they're talking about it is exactly what we said on the show yesterday. I don't know if they were listening. They probably are. I'm assuming Corso and Herbie are big fans of the show. And why would they not be? You know what I mean? So the guest picker is going to be Dawn Staley. The way they're going about it is you get Saban and Staley on at the same time. You have the GOAT and the GOAT. I'm telling you guys, and we should have done this in the offseason. We'll do it as the season gets closer for tip-off. But I mean, there's not a better coach in college sports right now, including Kirby Smart, right? Like, anywhere, including Vitello or anywhere else in any other sport. Dawn Staley is the best coach in college athletics right now. It's incredible what she's been able to do since she's been at South Carolina, and that's only going to continue because they have just weapons after weapons after weapons coming back too. So excited to see that. Excited to see her, Chloe Kitts, and all that this upcoming year. Some of the new recruits as well. But we'll get more into that as the season gets closer. She's going to be a guest picker on the show. No word yet on if she's going to be wearing any Eagles gear. I hope not. I hope she's wearing something for some good luck for South Carolina. But should be a fun episode of Game Day this Saturday. So this is a fun episode as well. I appreciate you guys joining me. Make sure you're making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Your second listen, make sure it's Locked On SEC or Locked On or Smothered and Covered with Barrett Salee, brought to you by Locked On as well. Hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday. We will see you tomorrow for predictions. Love you all. Go Cox. Cox by 90, guys.